I was to ask you to think of a day in which men cherish their loved ones, your thoughts most likely would go to the 14th of February, being St. Valentine's Day, a notorious festivity that couples celebrate with an exchange of gifts, such as chocolate and flowers. Maybe your thoughts could also go to the 8th of March, being the International Women's Day, when men give women a mimosa in sign of appreciation or love. If you, however, were to ask a Venetian from Venice what they would attribute for such an occurrence, those dates would probably not even cross their mind immediately. Hello everybody, this is Harmony Link and today I'm here in this short video to talk about a Venetian tradition taking place on this date. Before starting, a quick word of thanks to my tippers, Benjamin and Jacob, for their support that lasted even in the period of absence of videos. Many thanks guys, it means a lot to me and I hope I can manage to improve the quality of these videos as much as I can. Anyway, let's get into the topic. Few, I imagine, thought of the 25th of April as a day comparable to the previously mentioned ones, especially Italians, as nowadays that date is mainly known as the Liberation Day, a yearly commemoration of the liberation of Italy from the fascist and National Socialist rule and occupation. Overall, not really the greatest day to think about love, no. Well, not for the citizens of Venice. Some of you, especially Christians, might know that April 25th is an important day for Venice, as it is the feast day of Saint Mark the Evangelist, patron of the city. However, it is also the day in which you might see local men buying roses and giving them to their fiancées or wives, to their sisters and their mothers. If you visited Venice on this day in 2014, you might have even assisted to the land art done in St. Mark's Square, in which people created a rose visible from up above in the sky. So, what is this all about in the end? What's the deal with all of these roses? Well, as many traditions, it all starts with a legend. Over 1,000 years ago, during the reign of the seventh Doge of Venice, Maurizio Galbaio, there lived a young maiden belonging to the noble patrician house of Partecipazio. Her name was Maria, but due to her lively character and her fiery dark eyes, she was nicknamed Vulcana. Vulcana's father, Orso, was, as you can imagine from a nobleman, trying to find a suitable candidate for her daughter to marry. But not only was he struggling due to not finding anybody of a good enough social rank, but also because Vulcana was deeply in love with a young commoner by the name of Tancredi, love who Tancredi reciprocated. This made things quite difficult for Orso, as his daughter outright refused to marry anybody he would present and would ask her father permission to marry Tancredi instead. And as you can imagine, Orso was severely against this, and at one point forbade the two from meeting again. Hearing this, the young couple grieved, but before parting ways, Vulcana came up with an idea and thus told Tancredi, "If, my beloved, thou were to join the host of Charles, king of the Franks, and prove thy valor, fending off the ungodly Saracens, then surely will my father allow us to be joined in marriage." And, of course, the young Tancredi, with the prospect of gaining glory and being able to prove himself as worthy to marry Vulcana, couldn't turn down such an option, and so he joined the armies of the Franks. After some time, battle after battle, Tancredi started getting recognition as a valiant warrior and defender of the faith, to the point of becoming a paladin of Charles. Such recognition arrived to Orso's ears and, finally, he started reconsidering with care his daughter's wish, making Vulcana joyous beyond imagination. Before the two could meet again, though, many were the battles left to be fought, but, alas, the day in which Charles and his paladins visited Venice came. It was during the feast of St. Mark, being on the 25th of April, that the future emperor triumphantly entered the city and was greeted by the Doge and the other nobles. But as soon as his eyes met with those of Orso and Vulcana, his triumphant expression shifted. Both Vulcana and her father were now eager to welcome Tancredi back home, so they stopped Charles and asked where Tancredi was, to which Charles called upon one of his paladins. Silence fell upon those who were present, and then a man holding a withering red rose approached Vulcana and asked her, Art thou Maria, daughter of Orso, known as Vulcana? Vulcana replied, It is I, but who art thou? I am Roland, of Charles Paladin, and this white rose belongs to thee. Vulcana, visibly confused and amused, then asked Roland, I see now thou art Roland, fellow paladin and friend of my Tancredi, but why art thou offering me a red rose, and why art thou telling me it is white while it is red as blood? Roland remained silent for a moment, but then replied, In our last battle, Tancredi had been surrounded by the enemy, and retreated to a destroyed villa, where he had his last stand against the godless Saracens. There he slew all of them, but, wounded as he was, he did not manage to live and reunite with us. I found him resting right by a beautiful white roses garden, holding a rose himself, which, due to his own blood, turned red. There, he told me, Roland, my friend, I beg thee, bring this to my home city, and give it to Maria, son of Orso, known as Vulcana. May it be proof of my everlasting love for her. After telling me this, he breathed his last. The silence following Roland's words was only broken by Vulcana's crying. That day, even the paladins, whose life was dedicated to fighting and slaying the enemies of their king in cold blood without remorse, were shaken by that scene. Vulcana ran home and remained in her room for the rest of the day and for the entire following night, desperate and heartbroken. The following day, Orso, not hearing his daughter cry anymore, entered her room to try and comfort her, but to his horror he found his daughter lifeless. She was still holding tightly the rose she was given. However, to Orso's surprise, the rose was not withering anymore, but it was as if it was freshly taken out of a garden, shining of a vibrant red nobody had ever seen before. Ever since this happened, the men of Venice, in order to remember and honor the love of Vulcana and Tancredi, bring home each year on the feast of Saint Mark a red rose to their beloved wives, or soon to be such, and sometimes even to all the women and girls of their household, like their mothers, sisters, and daughters. So, now that you know, if you're a man trying to find an excuse to celebrate the love of your life beyond just on St. Valentine's Day, you better run to your nearest florist and buy the best rose you can find. On the other hand, if you're a woman and are searching for a way to convince your beloved to get you some flowers, well, share this video with him. In any case, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and in case you did, consider subscribing and leaving a like or a comment down below. Once more, a sincere and warm thank you towards Benjamin and Jacob, ever-present tippers of the channel on Tippy. This was Harmonia Link, and I hope to see you next time.